I don't know if I can properly convey the feeling of playing Burnout 3, but it starts how you might expect, with a... Before you know it, you're weaving through traffic and it feels like you're just barely holding onto the blacktop with your fingernails. You're trading paint and slamming the other cars into walls. Oh, and when you hit the boost, there's this... But then there's a wall or a bus you didn't notice, and... the world slows down. It's almost peaceful, but you can see through the smoke the second place car, and you know that they're gonna pass you. Everything in your body leans to the side, urging the flaming wreck of your car to move just a little. And then you're back on the track again, fighting for the gold medal until you cross the finish line and realize that you haven't bothered to blink in several minutes. You shake out your hands, take a deep breath, and then you do it again. And that's why I love Burnout 3. Takedown. So good at wasting our time. We are the lazy generation. I'm not a car guy. I barely understand how they even work, and with very few exceptions, I could not care less about racing games. I don't want to have to think about how different tires work in different weather patterns, or how much torque my manifold can intake. And on the other hand, while the Mario, Sonic, Kirby, Crash, Garfield, and Shrek kart racers are all fine to play with the kids, they don't exactly get the blood pumping, you know? I mean, the Shrek one gets the blood pumping somewhere, but not in the same way.
You're looking a little blue in the face there. Blue in the face.
If I'm gonna race, I want to go fast, and that's what Burnout does best. It establishes a blistering sense of speed and puts you on the razor's edge of controlled chaos to keep you in a dopamine-dripping flow state that games like Balatro could only wish to imitate. I'm not totally sure that comes through the same way when you're watching the recording instead of playing, but chances are good that if you clicked on this video at all, you probably know what I'm talking about. Hiller Driller? I hardly know her. At these speeds, you can't watch your car or you'll never have enough time to react. Instead, your sight has to be in the middle distance, struggling to parse the upcoming turn or headlights of oncoming traffic through the debris and the glare of the sun. The same red and white signage and yellow road paint that guides you through those turns blurs and flashes on the edges of your vision, and hazards zip by so fast that you're never totally sure how close you were to disaster. All the while, your opponents nip at your fender and slam into you from the sides, pushing you towards the median in a sudden stop. It's like something out of Mad Max with bullet time. And when a crash does come, it's sudden and violent, even without the blood of a driver. And watching your car hurtle through the air in slow motion at 200 miles per hour, or seeing it suddenly crumple like a soda can against a concrete wall, is endlessly satisfying, even if it does mean that you're now at risk of losing the race. One of the main features that sets the Burnout series apart from something like Need for Speed or Flat Out is the aftertouch system. For a few seconds after you crash, you can still control your vehicle's momentum to a limited degree, and that lets you set yourself up to take out other racers in a last-ditch effort to claw back success from the jaws of your own failure. It's a wonderful addition because typically crashing in a game like this would only be a negative. This system gives you a little spark of hope to keep going and distracts you from the frustration of all that lost momentum. It tells you that maybe you're not done yet. It's not always perfect. The biggest problem is that you can't control the camera, but overall it's hard to top the feeling of making your bad times someone else's problem. It also ties in perfectly to the boost mechanic. Every car in Burnout comes equipped with that little red button from Men in Black.
You remember the little red button?
Yeah.
Push the little red button. And you may want to put on a seatbelt.
And it even further increases that sense of speed. The boost helps you shrug off the friction of the guardrail or catch up to the person who put you into a wall, but all good things must come to an end, and eventually you do run out of boost. You get more by driving recklessly, staying in the oncoming traffic lane, narrowly missing civilian cars, trading paint, and drifting will all give you more fuel to continue going faster longer. Hit the split? Huh, I hardly know her. But the real key to success is in crashing your opponents. This will increase the maximum length of your boost gauge as well as completely refilling it. When you crash, part of your boost bar gets broken off, so you have a lower maximum amount of boost to use to catch up. And it adds a little extra pain to an already stressful situation. You'll need to refill your now smaller tank through skillful play, and this is fantastic because it means that if you get into a crash, and then you use the aftertouch to crash someone else, you don't have that drawback from your failure anymore, and you can make up for your lost time much easier. That boost system also applies pressure differently when you're at the front of the pack, because you can't just turn your brain off and cruise to the end zone. When you're in first place, there are rarely opponents to take down so you can quickly refill your bar, so you'll have to drive very dangerously and risk hitting oncoming traffic just to maintain your lead. All of this comes together in each Burnout event, and it keeps it engaging over 170 plus events to compete in throughout the single-player campaign. There aren't a huge amount of tracks to race through, but what is there is reused in really smart ways, where in one event you'll be doing laps around downtown, and then in another you're doing a straight shot through the countryside that leads you into that same city, and you'll have to go through parts of that same track again, but maybe this time you'll be driving it backwards. Rather than feeling repetitive, your mastery of those spaces becomes a tool that you can use to your advantage. Because when you know that the next section is that part of the road with the big pillars that you keep hitting, you can stay to the side to avoid them. Or if you approach this next turn in just the right spot, you can boost drift through the entire section and get a big chunk of your boost back. Euro Tram Ram? Huh, I hardly know. Finally, my favorite way to break up the normal game loop is the crash events, where you have to strategically hurdle your vehicle into a predefined intersection full of active traffic to cause as much damage as possible, trying to grab score multipliers on the way. This was especially fun when I was a kid who had friends. We would sit in my room and pass the controller for hours trying to get all the gold medals or just see who could get the highest score. Each of those races and event types can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 or 20 minutes for some of the larger Grand Prix events, and as you participate in them, you'll unlock a massive number of new vehicles to play around with in future events. The cars manage to feel tangibly different despite not having to mess around with any deep customization options. In fact, the only personalization you get are a few preset paint colors for each car, which can feel a bit limiting, but I don't really care as long as it's got my favorite color.
Does it come in black?
All of this is happening over what, to me, is the single greatest licensed track selection of any game ever made. There is a fake DJ that doesn't add much for me, but thankfully there's an option to turn him off. It's going to be down to personal taste, but this game was a key turning point in my own development towards being a weird guy in his 30s, still listening to the same playlist from before 2010. Maybe if you grew up in a big city, these were common bands for you, but this was the first time I ever heard of Motion City Soundtrack, Atreyu, My Chemical Romance, Rise Against, Yellow Card, Amber Pacific. It's a lot of angry, sad men in tight pants, but the point is, I grew up in bumfuck nowhere with Cletus and the cousin who thinks his tractor is sexy. The music of this game became the soundtrack of my teenage life, and I'll probably never recover. You can't actually play Burnout 3 on any modern consoles. It came out on the 360, but it's not backwards compatible. You might be thinking, what about Burnout Paradise? To which I say, fuck Burnout Paradise. The open world format makes every race feel the same, and the idea was never interesting in the first place. The choose your own route gimmick just gives you a ton of ways to fuck up if you don't go the way the game wants, and the soundtrack only has a handful of good songs at best. Burnout Revenge is okay, but the bloom and the motion blur look like shit, and the challenge structure is a huge downgrade from Takedown. It feels like you're driving underwater, and the way cars fly away from you like they're made out of balloons is so stupid. You can still buy that one on the Xbox if you don't care about that whole Microsoft helping with the mass murder thing, but I wouldn't recommend it either way. It's really not the same high. It's great value crack with a bunch of flour mixed in. I've never done drugs. I don't know if this is a good metaphor. But if you want to experience what I'm talking about for yourself, you'll have to find the physical media and the means to play it, or emulate it. Don't blame me, billion-dollar companies. You literally won't let people pay you for it. Also, there's no way this video is going to be able to be monetized because I played 3 seconds of a 25-year-old song, so if you made it this far, I guess subscribe or watch another video. But either way, that's all for this one. Take care of yourself, and as always, thanks for watching. Later.